Great. Hey, everyone. My name is Delphine, and I'm going to be talking about my co-op experience the past 8 months. So web optimization in the government of Canada. So my placement took place with Global Affairs Canada. I started this position remotely at the beginning of May. And this position was, I was thankfully able to extend this position into my second co-op term in the fall. So I've been working with Global Affairs full-time May to December, and I'm still working there part-time as I finish my last semester of classes right now. So I worked on the web communications, user experience, and project browser division. So this division has 7 different teams, but I did most of my work with the trade team, as my supervisor is the trade team lead. But I was the only student in this division, so I had a lot of opportunities to be able to work with other teams and kind of pick and choose which projects I wanted to work on. So I also worked with the user experience team, project browser, and the intranet team. So what we do is we maintain and manage the digital web properties for Global Affairs. So we do this through increasing the accessibility and the readability of content. And this is just a list of the guides that we kind of follow with the work that we do when we're reviewing content. And in order to, look at the current web pages and how we can better optimize them and modernize the pages. So in 2011, the Government of Canada enacted the standard on web accessibility, which outlines that the government's committed to making content accessible to a wider range of people with disabilities, cognitive limitations, limited movement, speech disabilities, photosensitivity, and a combination of these. So my daily tasks include editing and publishing a variety of digital products, and optimizing the usability and accessibility of content through abiding by the standards on web accessibility, Canada.ca style guides, as well as we have our own internal Global Affairs style guides that we look at. And also another aspect of this is conducting like information architecture projects aimed at identifying, inconsistencies and redundancies that we see throughout pages that are already online, as well as archiving pages that might not be relevant anymore. And another big aspect of my job is to provide communications advice and services to clients located around the world. So as I've said, most of my work is done with the trade team. And so this is a list of all of the types of web pages that I work on. So dominantly, I work a lot on market reports and sector reports that are posted on the Trade Commissioner Service website. So the trade team works on, there's the corporate side of trade, which is posting more kind of urgent news updates, whereas the Trade Commissioner Service site has a variety of web pages such as the ones listed here. And I also mentioned earlier, as I also work on information architecture projects. One of those projects is a weekly report of broken link fixes. So I receive a report from Adobe Analytics of the top 10 broken links that are receiving the most visits throughout the Trade Commissioner Service website. So I'll go through the HTML and find where these links are broken, what the correct fix is, and then I'll action those, the set of link fixes to the web publishers each week. So as I've said, most of my work, a lot of it is working on market and sector reports. So the review process for any type of content that we're receiving is really complicated. I know this slide is super text heavy, but just kind of an overview. We receive reports from clients, and then the first thing we do is determine the level of effort necessary for review. So reports can range from executive summaries that are 1 to 2 pages to market reports that ideally are between 8 to 10 pages, but I did work on a exporting guide for the European Union that was around 80 pages, which is usually we don't accept products that long, but we did work on that. So identifying the level of review really ties into the timeline for the project. So clients sometimes will outline a deadline that they'd want their product published online. And there's many factors that go into establishing this timeline. So whether with the urgency of the product and whether the client expresses a specific deadline, and then the level of review necessary, and then the kind of the workload of the web advisor. So how many projects do we have on the go? How long is it going to take us to review the product? And then also finally, the workload of the web publishing team. So once we've done all the review of the content and the back and forth with the client, we send it to the web publishing team to be coded for the web. And, you know, for example, over the holidays, the web publishing team has been at max capacity. So products like market reports that aren't usually as urgent to get on the site kind of get pushed on the back burner. So these projects that I'm working on can take anywhere between 2 to 5 days, where we receive a product, review it, and it gets published, or they can take months. The EU exporting guide that I said was 80 pages took around 5 to 6 months to actually get live on the site. So yeah, I'm just going to talk a bit about the common accessibility issues that we address when looking at these products. So, when we're doing a kind of looking at lengthier products, we look more at the structure. So the first thing that we address is headings. So when web publishers go in to code a document, it's really essential that we have the heading hierarchy in the Word document set out for them so that it's easier for them to code. So oftentimes clients won't have specific headings coded within their Word documents, so we have to go in and implement that. Another structural thing that we commonly address are bulleted lists. So I'm not going to read this full example, but you can see that this paragraph is really difficult to digest and overwhelming to look at, and separating listed items when there's 3 or more items in a list into bullets is something we often do. And another big aspect for accessibility are descriptive hyperlinks. So users that are visually impaired require screen readers to read out text to them on web pages. So for example, if someone is listening to a screen reader read a web page that reads, "For more information, visit https://www." That being read aloud provides no contextual context to what this is. So it's really essential that we embed hyperlinks into descriptive text. Another thing that we commonly address are tables. So tables should be used just to present data pretty much. So if there's a really text heavy table, this is just a screenshot that I took from a report that I worked on, and we changed this and put headings and paragraphs. It's just, again, a bit easier to digest this information. Images also, if you're familiar with any Government of Canada web pages, we don't often see a lot of graphics because graphics require there to be alt text for images or a corresponding table to present the data. So this report that I worked on, I wanted to remove this pie chart, but the client really wanted it in the report. So I created this table that just presents the same data, but is accessible to people that may be colorblind. So if someone is colorblind looking at this pie chart, they're, again, not going to have any context to what it means at all. And this is just another example of a pretty complicated flow chart that I required a lot of back and forth with the client. I had asked them to create a text version of this flow chart. They did not want to, so I went in and spent some time creating what I thought was a text version of this flow chart, and then again had to go back to the client and say, does this contextually make sense? Does it explain the same thing that the flow chart is trying to explain? and they agreed that it was okay. And so we ended up keeping the flowchart, but then also having the text equivalent in there. So when we are looking at kind of shorter products, we can dive a bit deeper into the content, or sometimes even lengthier products. If the quality is not there and the content is really complex, we'll dive in and address readability issues. So the government of Canada has a goal of implementing a grade 8 level of understanding. So this grade level of understanding can be calculated with the Flesch reading ease. Thankfully, we don't have to actually calculate this. We use a tool called Visible Thread that we can upload documents into, and it will give us a level of understanding. So oftentimes when I receive a report, it'll be grade 16 level of understanding, but Visible Thread is a fantastic tool because it'll highlight areas where there are complex words, or areas where the passive voice is being used, or really long sentences that could be split into shorter sentences. So all of these aspects increase the readability of content. So another large aspect that I've touched on throughout the presentation so far is client relations. So it can be really challenging to balance what clients want, how they want their product to look on the site with meeting these accessibility standards. And as I've been saying, if you've seen government web pages, they're very specific. There's specific templates that we have to follow. And so oftentimes if there's a bunch of branding and stuff that are on these products, we have to remove that. So it can be kind of difficult going back and forth and explaining the rationale for implementing these standards. And coming to an agreement with clients. As well, it's also super important to just be communicating throughout the entire review process. As I said, it can take months to get certain products online. And also sometimes clients, we will review a document and send it back to them for translation. And sometimes I won't hear back for like weeks, and it's important to follow up on products if there is no response, so that we can get the products online and all of the effort that we've already put into the products is not lost. So another thing, other projects that I worked on with the trade team were information architecture projects. So for one example was I implemented this new template onto all of the European Union country pages. So we added this section called Doing Business in the European Union, which had links that were relevant to all European country pages. And this just provides a standard look so that if anybody is looking for information across different European countries, it's really easy to navigate. I also, throughout my whole time that I've been working at GAC, we're constantly implementing raw analyses throughout the web pages. So that's identifying redundant, outdated, and trivial content. And also a part of that is ensuring that there's no orphan pages. So that means that every page is linked from somewhere on the site. So if a page is not linked from anywhere on the site, it's considered orphaned, and this significantly reduces the search engine optimization of the page as well as of the site. And as I mentioned earlier as well, I compile a weekly report of broken links. So I also worked a bit with the Project Browser and user experience teams. So Project Browser is the website, the Global Affairs website that publishes all of the international development projects that Canada funds. And users can download these projects as open data files. And so the Project Browser team has been doing an ongoing revamp of their site for over a year now. And throughout the summer, we did user experience testing sessions for the new homepage as well as the results page. So we've been working with a consulting agency, Jumping Elephants, and it was a really cool experience. I was able to participate in and help take notes during these user experience testing sessions where we gave users task-based questions, and then we watched how they went about answering these task-based questions on the wireframe mockups for the new page. And then we also encourage them to speak out loud at their thought process. So this was really interesting to see how different users were navigating with our new mockups for the homepage. And this is just a little sneak preview of what the new on the right is the new mock-up wireframe for the homepage that we were testing throughout the summer. And on the left is the current project browser page. So overall, I've really enjoyed my experience with global affairs. I'm really happy to be continuing to work part-time. It's been a challenge for sure. I've never had this much individual responsibility with a job. So prioritizing my responsibilities and all of my projects has been a really big skill that I've had to learn. So as I've said, if I'm working on 8 or 10 different market reports that are all in different stages of the review process, it can be really difficult to prioritize which products, especially when clients don't define any deadlines or there's no urgency. It's really on me to kind of make sure that everything is progressing. And also what's been super important is maintaining communications with people within my team, because we are working remotely. So the trade team, we have two meetings a week to check in on our projects, and we use Microsoft Teams to constantly chat and check in. So that's been great. And you know, there have been a few challenges of remote work, which I'm sure my other colleagues that have been working their co-op terms have probably experienced. It's been a strange experience to start a job remotely, but it's been really great in terms of building my abilities to like stay focused and self-regulate myself and hold myself accountable for these responsibilities. So overall, I've really enjoyed my experience with global affairs. You know, throughout this pandemic, communications we're seeing is so important, and I was really honored. We received this certificate of appreciation for COVID crisis response. So because I contributed to COVID-related content that was posted on GAC's web pages, most of the people in my department received this certificate, which is pretty cool. And then this other photo, thankfully I was able to meet a few of my colleagues at a socially distanced picnic in the fall, which was really surreal, but really great to see people in real life. And then what's next for me? I don't know. I'm happy that I'm kind of running out of time, because I'm still unsure what the next step is for me after I graduate in April, but I'm going to be probably continuing to work part-time for global affairs. And I've really, as I've said, I've really enjoyed my experience. It's been a lot of challenges, but my team has been super welcoming to me, and yeah, we will see. So, oh, I think I got it. Thank you slide.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Delphine. Si vous avez une question, tu peux poser maintenant. We'll check the chat.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. That was great. Is there a resource that you would or be able to point us to or share or maybe recommend that has maybe the same guidelines that you're applying to the websites, but for PowerPoint presentations? I have
That's an interesting question. I can do a little digging and see if there's anything specifically to PowerPoints. But the Canada Style Guide kind of summarizes a lot of what I was talking about, but
okay.
Yeah, I'll do some digging and see if there's something related to PowerPoints.
Awesome, thank you.
Est-ce qu'il y en a d'autres questions?
I have a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jennifer. I can wait.
Oh, my question for Delphine was how your training that you obtained in the department kind of transferred over to the work that you did at Global Affairs.
Do you mean like it within my master's degree, or?
did that not work? Oh, sorry, Delphine. My question that I tried to ask was how your training in the department in some of the courses that you took during the pursuit of your M.Comm helped prepare you for your work at Global Affairs.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting experience because, you know, implementing these standards of accessibility is a lot different than academic writing that I've been so used to. But I think in my research methods class that I had to take last semester, we talked about how oftentimes in academia we try to overcomplicate things. And so I think in communications, we have been talking a lot about how we don't need to be making things unnecessarily complex, and using plain language is really important. And yeah, so it's definitely, you know, the theoretical academia is a bit different than this plain language, but it is sort of complementary as well.
Great. I think we have time for one more question.
Yes, I have one question for Delphine. You know, working in the government in this area of web communication should be a little bit challenging, particularly in times of crisis, because you mentioned that your clients, meaning the people in the government, sometimes they are very slow in approving things. And then what's your impression of this, you know, highly bureaucratic, procedural way of doing things, particularly when you need to react or to offer information to the public in the context of this, for example, this particular crisis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a great question. I didn't really work on urgent content that, you know, I said the trade team there's the corporate side of trade and the trade commissioner service. So the corporate side is definitely more news, urgent news that needs to be published. So that definitely takes priority. So again, like I said, the products that I was working on sometimes got pushed to the back burner just because there's so much crisis communication that is taking precedent in the web publisher's workload. Obviously, that needs to be published right away. But I think you know, there are members of my team who have been staying up till 5 a.m. making sure that things are published on time. And but that also, I think, is more the strategic communications division that does urgent crisis communications. But I definitely had a little bit of a taste of that of my colleagues that were working on that. I wasn't really specifically working on those products, but you do raise a good point. And I think that having all of these different regulations can slow down that process. But yeah, so but I do think we do our best in obviously prioritizing those urgent matters.
Okay, thank you.
Great. What a fantastic way to get our co-op panel started.